Gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please. We are going to call this eighth and final study committee for Senate Resolution 476, which is the Study Committee on Artificial Intelligence for the Georgia State Senate, to order. I want to begin by thanking everyone for their hard work in this committee, as well as the folks that served our working group and all of you that have been in the audience, who have met with us individually, who have testified. We have gotten an extraordinary amount of favorable information. As in everything we do, the answer is always going to be us working together and coming up with good, positive solutions to keep Georgia the number one place to live, work, play, and raise a family. And as I've said in the past, in order to maintain the great accolades we have as the best state to do business in the future, we're also going to have to be the best state for artificial intelligence. I want to begin with our committee members. We have a few online today that were unable to be here in person. But a quick review, I want to thank Senator Max Burns, Senator Jason Estevez, Senator Sheikh Ram, Senator Ed Setzler, Senator Sean Still, Dr. Pascal, Ms. Robin Crittenden, and Mr. Fred Miscali for their extraordinary work. Typically, study committees in the Georgia State Senate involve 3, maybe 4 committee meetings. We've done 8 committee meetings and had a lot of work offline. And to do that, though, we needed help from what we call our working group. And this group not just met for these committee meetings, but we had ongoing calls and other type of meetings in preparatory for each one of these locations, each one of the initiatives, vetting speakers and presentations. And I want to thank that working group for a moment. And I want to begin with Mr. Brad Vaughn from the Lieutenant Governor's Office, Mr. Evan Bergwall, who runs our Senate Press Office, along with Emily Leonard, who serves in the Senate Press Office, as well as all the rest of the Senate Press team, which worked here at the Capitol as well as the multiple locations. Haley Williams, who works in our Office of Policy and Legislative Analysis group, who helped to vet the presentations and put together our final report. Mr. Will Spencer, right next to me, who has quarterbacked this effort and project managed it. Mr. Austin Trott from our Budget and Analysis team. Mr. Ben Huntington from our Legislative Council group, and other folks such as my friend Becky Stone from Roswell Rotary, who has offered her expertise, friends from the Chambers of Commerce, from our different institutions, whether they be from the medical industry, public safety industry, technology, manufacturing, and the list goes on and on. I think this was an excellent example of how we would want to run study committees. I also want to thank Chairman Brad Thomas with the Georgia House of Representatives. We combined several of our meetings intentionally to make sure we're working together and not in a silo. And I know they are going to have their final meeting coming up soon and adopting a report that I think will be substantially similar, but we will be working together as we get into 2025 and the legislative session to make sure we are working together well. I also want to take a moment and thank all of my colleagues in the Senate who voted for us to have Senate Resolution 476 and passed it, and Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones and his staff for empowering myself to chair the committee and appointing all these wonderful committee members to serve as a part of it. In the very beginning of this committee, we adopted a basic framework, which we have referenced many times, that you have seen that has been on our website. We've pulled it up in different meetings, and we've had copies in folders. And the purpose of that framework was to start with a baseline. And we started with a definition of what artificial intelligence is. And then we broke up into certain vertical areas. And I want to repeat those one time. And the vertical areas that we looked at, and we based our meetings by these, were labor and workforce, research and development, public safety, healthcare, transportation infrastructure, education, economic impact, and innovation. Knowing those verticals were very important, we heard from a lot of different individuals and their subject matter expertise. But there were certain things that horizontally covered each and every one of those that were a reoccurring theme and level of priority for the committee. And they included regulation and ethics, privacy and data protection, and social welfare and equity. So you will see as we work on the report how we tried to weave those things together in order to make sure our baseline started to be the beginning of what would be the final report. I mentioned this at our last meeting, that this is not the end. It is not the beginning, but it is the end of the beginning, as Winston Churchill said. We have a lot of work to do. And I mean that because artificial intelligence is changing in real time and literally sometimes on a daily basis. And with that, we are also working with other states, which I think is very important. One of the challenges that happens sometimes is there's a patchwork of laws between all 50 states. That makes it very difficult for individuals, families, businesses, small, medium, and large, regulators to work together. And the goal is to help and create consensus, put guardrails together, encourage innovation while we are protecting the individuals that we're sworn to serve. So with that, there is a multi-state policy group that I have been working with throughout that time. In fact, I will be leaving later this afternoon to fly out to Los Angeles for the TechNet conference to meet with many of those folks and meet with many of the large tech companies' senior leaders to talk about this. So again, we're all trying to work in concert together. We will continue to do that as we get to the point of legislation. Our goal is always to be collaborative in working together. The report you see has got a lot of different action items. They don't actually call it a specific bill at this point, but you can certainly see that coming. And that will be done in a myriad of ways. Some of that will be things such as data privacy and protection, which we've worked on in the past. Some things will be things such as deep fakes, which we've worked on in the past. Other things might be edicts from the governor's office where he and his staff may want to do certain things for certain agencies, the same with other constitutional officers. Could also be budget related. We have a great opportunity to embrace AI as a state government to become more efficient, to become better, but doing that in a way that we all feel comfortable. I'm going to reference Fred, who always brings up the great analogy of having the human on the loop, in the loop, and out of the loop. And we want to make sure that we are still, at the bare minimum, on that loop as we do stuff and as we embrace this moving forward. I know there are some people that are afraid of and they want to not do anything. That's not the reality. We're going to have to embrace artificial intelligence. Doing it the right way will be our task moving forward. With that, we have been working feverishly on a report literally from the first meeting as we started capturing ideas. And then from that, even over the last couple of weeks, I want to thank the committee members and the working committee for your time over the Thanksgiving holiday. We've already sent around that information so people could review it. And what everybody has in front of them today is a copy of the draft report and specifically the recommendations and the findings. Now, this report otherwise is 170 some odd pages. 185 pages, and that includes a list of all the meetings, all the locations, the topics, the speakers, the copies of the presentations, everything that we've gotten, but culminates really into the findings and recommendations, which everybody in this committee has already seen. I'm going to take a moment in a minute just to review some of the high-level parts of that. I'm not going to read all these verbatim, but this will be available on the website. I want to again thank our Senate Press Office for putting up at the very beginning. We have on the General Assembly website a specific area for all of our study committees. And in ours, you will find all of this information we publish once this meeting is done. And if you need access to that, you can also come directly to myself or Mr. Will Spencer next to me, and we'll be happy to get you a copy of that. Before we get there, though, I want to offer any one of our committee members to make any comments about the work we have done, any thoughts they have as we finish up this final meeting today. So we also have 3 members on Zoom, so we'll open up to them. But is there any committee members that would like to make any comments while we're all together?
Great job.
Wait, let me get your microphone on for that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, please, Senator Estevez.
I'll echo my colleague, Senator Still, in saying great job in managing a topic that is very broad, and I feel like we've covered a lot of different areas within AI, and look forward to continuing to work on this with you. Appreciate the recommendations, appreciate your willingness to incorporate the feedback from members and incorporate experts in the field in this work as well. So thank you, and look forward to continuing this work with our colleagues.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. Other comments from committee members, either in the room or on Zoom?
Senator Albers, this is Senator Setzler. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, please.
Hey, again, appreciate your leadership on this. As you had said earlier, does not happen on its own. And your level of leadership on this really, to me, has been more engaged and on point than I think any study committee I've been a part of. So I wanted to just tip my hat to you. And again, Mr. Spencer's been a huge part of that, but just your leadership made this happen. So hats off to you for that.
Thank you.
Also, I would say, there's, as we approach these kinds of things, we're not approaching this with a regulatory mindset. We're approaching this as a thing that sometimes government does best when it does least. So we don't start with a framework that this is something we need to regulate. And I appreciate across the committee, there's been that sense. And I would just conclude by saying, this is one of those things that reminds us, however, what we do on behalf of our citizens. And, sometimes our citizens feel like things are being done for them. Sometimes things are being done by them, and sometimes things are being done to them. And I think as long as we proceed in this, mindful of the opportunities technology brings us, but never forgetting that it's regular people working every day out there in our communities that we were elected to serve. That's the purpose of why we serve, and that's what this is about. If our heart and our head stays with them, I think we will navigate these complexities in an appropriate and exciting way. And I just appreciate the members never losing sight of that as we proceed in this process.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that feedback. Do we have other members that would like to provide any feedback? All right. Oh, yes, Senator.
Just, thank you for your leadership in these issues, and looking forward to work with you in terms of legislation. But one thing that Senator Setzler just said, I probably learned so much from this study committee, especially when all the institutions that we have at Georgia Tech and University of Georgia, all this graduating they're providing for so many years, and it was like eye-opening. We didn't realize that. So it's the right time for the right topics, and this will be great help for the state of Georgia and this country, in matter of fact. And glad to be part of it.
Thank you so much, Senator. Other comments from committee members?
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yes, please, Senator.
This is Max Burns. Good morning. First, I want to echo my colleagues' gratitude for first serving on the committee, second for the opportunity to get so much input from such a diverse community. As we've learned, it literally touches every Georgian every day. And so it is essential that we craft policy that protects Georgians, but promotes AI and promotes its effective and appropriate use. And I think we have a beginning. Likely there's a lot of work still in the future, but it's a great way to start. It's a great way to initiate a 2025 session. So I want to thank the chairman and committee members for their input.
Thank you, Senator. Okay. All right. I don't see any other comments. I want to direct everyone to, in front of you are the findings and recommendations. Your copy says draft, and I just got the official copy that doesn't have draft on it, which once we're going to do a quick review of these, we'll make sure we're all good. We'll take a vote on that, and then I'll officially sign the report, and we'll return it back to the Lieutenant Governor and all the other appropriate parties. As I mentioned in the end, though, this is definitely an ongoing process. My goal is to continue another study committee, probably in perpetuity, as we continue to watch this evolve. And I'm looking around, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to ask for your help again to continue to do this, because the expertise in this committee was really extraordinary. So if I direct you to the findings and recommendations, this is broken down in several different areas. And again, I'm not going to read each area, but we talk about the fact that the state of Georgia, obviously we have state government, but we charter, as mentioned in the past, every city, 538 of them, every county, 159 of them, and every school system, 181 of those. So we work with them, hopefully hand in glove, in order to support each other. And part of that is recommendations for them. And we've talked about purpose and objectives for using AI, the ethics and responsibility of using it, the governance and accountability, risk management and compliance, transparency and explainability. We spent a lot of time talking about these. Data management and security, human oversight and intervention, training and awareness, continuous improvement and innovation, and incident response and reporting as being some of the key areas, and there are more specifics under each one of these. We also believe that we need to adopt state legislation to support AI regulation without stifling innovation, as we've talked about several times now. That includes a comprehensive data privacy bill, an updated deep fake law. We already have some of that on our books, but obviously that has evolved considerably over the last couple of years with the advancement of generative AI, as well as adding full transparency and disclosure of how we're utilizing AI. Adopting a statewide definition, we talked about that. That was one of the first things we did with this committee, but that needs to also be put into law because it'll be referenced that way. Continuing statewide efforts in using AI. Obviously, this can help us to become a more efficient, more responsive customer service state, both as state government, but also how we help empower all the great folks that create jobs and opportunities for people. We are looking at requiring all AI tools have a return on investment. How do they work? Like everything else, we've taken a very strong policy, especially in the Senate side, with looking at return on investment, whether those be for tax credits, they be for new initiatives, departments, or in this case, the use of artificial intelligence. And also make sure that we're using a very specific data-driven approach to make sure the tools we're using are the right tools to use. Education and workforce, whether that's pre-K, kindergarten through 12th grade, technical college, college system, continuing learning. It's enormous. We're glad to hear from so many experts in that field from our university system as well as K through 12. This, again, is a part of the fabric of society. I always use the reference that I remember when I was young, you weren't allowed to use a calculator in class. I always questioned that because in the real world, we were going to use a calculator. We're having some of those exact same discussions now about how AI is used. Again, we cannot pretend that AI is not there. We're going to have to figure out a way to embed that into everything we do. It's a part of every single class, as well as the programs that we're using in order to get people to be ready for the jobs of the future. So we're looking at that, reskilling people who will be disproportionately affected by artificial intelligence. Like any great change, it's going to create jobs and it's going to reduce jobs. And as mentioned in the past, this will, for the first time, really since the major American Industrial Revolution, impact white-collar jobs more than blue-collar jobs. That is very different. So we'll have to look at that. How do we as a state help guide that? Because we want people to be in good jobs and be able to take care of themselves, their families, and communities. Developing those plans for all the educational institutions is very important. The next is public safety, something near and dear to my heart. This is evolving in real time. The reality is in the future, there'll never be a delay or a busy signal in a 911 center. That's wonderful. AI being able to handle those calls, make sure the non-emergency calls are going to where they need to be. A pothole is not an emergency necessarily, but someone who is having a heart attack certainly is. How we dispatch that through drones and use of other technology and telemedicine is really groundbreaking. I mentioned in the past, as we get to healthcare too, that this is going to solve some of the biggest problems our planet faces. This is very, very exciting. This will cure cancer without a doubt, as well as other major issues we have with diseases, et cetera. but done in the right way. Our healthcare institutions, we have some of the best in the entire world right here in our state of Georgia. And we got to hear from them, and they work with our state agencies regularly. Whether that's people's services they get because they work for the state or one of the governments, they're receiving services through Medicaid or different areas, or the way we help people with special needs. All these things are very important. So we want to make sure we're working with each one of these agencies and our healthcare providers to make sure we're doing that right, and a specific focus again on mental health care. That's been a topic for the last many years now, a growing concern and need to make sure that we can use these tools in a positive way to help solve some of these very important problems. Next part is transparency, human oversight, and accountability. I think this is probably one of the biggest areas of concern that people have. Many of us saw movies years ago, and we think of 2001: A Space Odyssey or Terminator, all those different movies that embedded these things into our heads. And while there should be a healthy fear, we should make sure we're working to put those guardrails in place. And that's very critical for the transparency, making sure that we have some certification processes in place. There are some great industry standards that are out there today. And there's a host of other specific information in that area that we're going to continue to focus on. Some will be done at the state level, some will be done individually. And then there are very industry-specific things. We got to meet with the entertainment industry. The Georgia film tax credit created a large amount of jobs in industry in Georgia. We also have a huge music industry that we don't talk about probably enough. Our friends in Tennessee passed something called the Elvis Act in order to protect that music, whether it be from the lyrics to the actual person singing themselves, from not being taken and those copyrights stolen. So we need to look at things that protect the way that industry is done. Again, not to stifle innovation, because the innovation will come, but to make sure that we're doing it in a way that's fair to those that have put themselves forward and they have their likeness and their voices, et cetera, already in that domain. We believe that there are great opportunities to grow that too. One of our hometown heroes here, Mr. Tyler Perry, and his studios has done extraordinary things for our state of Georgia, not just business-wise, but as a great humanitarian. And he's already dedicated a huge portion of his studios into what he's doing with artificial intelligence. That by itself, while it might impact some jobs, will create other jobs. This is goodness that we want to thrive with. We got to go to Iron Horse Farm outside of Athens to see the great impact to agriculture. A reminder to everybody, agriculture is our #1 industry here still in the state of Georgia, and it has been since we became a state. And because of that, we need to continue to leverage technology and specifically artificial intelligence to do that, whether it be the need for labor that can be used with other automatic tools. The work we got to see with looking at soil samples for the acidity of the soil, how much hydration was used, how it was used, pesticides, things being targeted to specific areas. It makes people healthier. It makes those crops yield better. It's a great solution. And I've always believed that agriculture and our food is really a national security issue. And we want to stay the #1 place for doing that in agriculture. We also want to do it better, smarter in the future. Again, leveraging the great work that our third-party groups, whether it be our university system or our private marketplace, offered. Manufacturing, a huge area, continuing to be a burgeoning growth area as Georgia has continued to lure some of these great manufacturers to build new, to expand their current footprint, keep people in Georgia working. There's great progress of how AI is going to impact that. It's going to grow. It's going to change some jobs, but it's an important part of what we do, and also making sure we're educating the workforce to be able to work in those manufacturing plants, because we want more of that right here in our state of Georgia. And then always doing what we continue to do, which is to foster collaboration and people working together. As I mentioned in the beginning, nothing gets done by one group or one person. It's by the collaboration of all of us working together to do that. So as we finish the recommendations, I also have a request to everyone who is listening today, whether you're here or you're online. we are going to continue to need your help. I hope you know that anyone can reach out anytime, meet with me individually. You've got great committee members that are here on online. We're going to follow up with further discussions. There's going to be time that we are going to enter legislation in. And I'm going to work with this committee to be the signers, authors, and sponsors of those bills, as well as others. But we'll need you to come and testify and be a part of that and use your skills, wisdom, and knowledge and things we learned to work together to come up with what we hope to be a perfected legislative process and product at the end. So that is a summary in the review of the recommendations. Are there any final thoughts for the recommendations that we have in front of us and we have worked on throughout this process? Seeing none, could I ask someone for a motion to approve these recommendations?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to accept the full final report of the Senate Study Committee on Artificial Intelligence, SR 476.
Thank you for your motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We got a second from Senator Rum. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show that the motion has passed unanimously, and I will sign the committee report. Wonderful. All right. So, as mentioned earlier, we will get the final report put together. Again, it's a healthy 185 pages, as I've learned now. We'll post this up on the website. Because we are an artificial intelligence committee focusing on thing and technology, we are not going to print you out those copies at 185 pages each, but encourage you to look at them on your computer and your iPad. But we will make that again available. If for some reason you have a problem with the website, please contact any one of us. We'll make sure that we get you an emailed copy of that. We will put out a press release today, thanks to Evan, Emily, and team with our press office, acknowledging all the work by each one of the committee members, the actual meetings that we held, as well as a link to the final recommendations and report. If anybody has any questions or concerns about that, please see me after the meeting. All right. Well, this was a very productive meeting. Let me again thank each and every one of the committee members, to the working group, to everyone that participated either in the audience, you presented to us. There were many people that sent us stuff individually through the website or directly via email. We appreciate that as well, and we will continue to look forward to hearing from you in the future. And with that in mind, this meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Have a good one.